Hello, welcome to our Season 2 finale live discussion review of The Mandalorian. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as ever by our co-host Matthew. This episode is entitled The Rescue, and was written by none other than Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni themselves. It was directed by Peyton Reed, who some of you may know as the director of the MCU's Ant-Man films. Before we get started, feel free to rate this video in whatever way you see fit, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification icon. And if you're feeling extra generous, go ahead and share us on your social media platform of choice. Heck, if you don't like your neighbours, just run out into the street, scream at the top of your lungs, watch this video. Alright, Matthew, you want to get started?
Yeah, sure. I would say we'll do non-spoiler chat first, but with the pictures that we've got up on the screen,
Yep.
we kind of spoiled it already.
No, I agree completely. with all that happened in that finale, let's just go balls to the wall with the spoilers.
Okay, so first things first, like near enough 95% of season 2, absolutely loved this episode. All our predictions that we said were wrong. There were some phenomenal set pieces, again, great CGI for the most part. And just the general pace of the thing, it was like a whirlwind from start to finish. Just blew me away.
That's all you have to say?
Oh, my initial thoughts, yeah. I'll get more into it once we start talking about the episode.
Okay, so I only watched it the once, as I've had to work all day.
Yeah, I watched it again today. I had to.
Okay, and just a real quick update on the stream, just for technical purposes. Doesn't look like the live chat's going to work, so I'm just going to remove it. If you want to chat along and you're sitting watching, just use the side chat in the YouTube browser. My overall opinions changed a little bit, because as I was watching it, I was letting the fanboy in me get super excited with what happens in the final third of the episode. Thinking back now to what happens leading up to that, it's overall a very good and very well made finale in regards to the story of the season as a whole. I like how we get to where we are in the end. I also think it's hilarious that none of our predictions came true.
That's good.
Kind of. I mean, I thought Moff Gideon was going to get his comeuppance at one point there. And even though he isn't quite dead, he's removed as a threat.
Yeah.
And also our little baby Yoda's all grown up and moved on. So who knows where it's going to go now. Well, so as for the first two acts of the episode, like I say, exactly what I expected. Well made. Good pacing, good action, and then once we get to that final third, like I say, it's something that we'd have to discuss once we get to it as we break it down.
Yeah, so I agree with you there. The best thing about the pacing I found about this episode, it did this. It was like a nice slow trajectory, and then it just cranked it at the end. It was.
What are you talking about? It's go from the beginning.
Well, it is if what happens in the last third doesn't happen. It's all go, go, go. But what happened in the third act was so up here, it was like an exponential curve. And you're right, the fanboy in me was... I think the fanboy in any Star Wars fan was completely nerdgasming in that third act.
Nerdgasming?
Yeah.
Having a nerdgasm.
Having a nerdgasm, because we all did. But...
well, first, I did and I didn't. We'll get there, though.
Well, the opening scene, that was probably the weakest part of the episode for me, because I thought the two pilots, me and you could have done a better job acting in that scene. It was terrible. They were both very cardboard and had no real charisma.
So are we into the scene by scene analysis here?
Yeah, because
so the episode starts out with basically their plan to get him back is to create a smoke and mirrors scenario, and what they do is they attack the shuttle, which has the Doctor. I forget how to pronounce his name. What is it? Dr. Parishan.
The guy he looks like Dr. Bashir, but I can't remember.
So they stumble across his shuttle, which to be honest, that was a little bit odd, because that's not where we were at the end of last episode. That at the end of the last episode, they'd found the transponder for Gideon's ship.
Yeah.
So somewhere in between off screen, they must have been like, okay, we found out where his shuttle is, or something like that. Because they attack his shuttle and they successfully board him, and we find out that one of the pilots, who you don't seem to like the acting, I think it's whatever.
Well, do you want to know why? So what I got from that is what instantly was triggered in my head with their poor acting. I expected Mando to look at the camera and go, "Really? Is this as good as we can get? I know it's only a small part, but couldn't we get better actors for this?" And then wheeling Charlton Heston. It was just like that scene from Wayne's World with the garage guy. He's just such a bad actor. It's just like, what? We really couldn't afford anything better?
No, all I was thinking was like TNG era extras in the background.
Yeah, but
it's just they're not supposed to be. They're not supposed to steal the thunder from the main actors.
No, but so. they kind of did steal the thunder by being that bad. Is the way I was seeing it. They weren't very good.
Well, I didn't mind it.
Like you said, we got a very good witty repartee backwards and forwards from Kara and the remaining pilot after he shoots his buddy.
Yeah, so you find out that there's a little something more to what's going on here. Again, with the whole grey area empire, not everything's as black and white as we assume. This guy clearly has a bit of a vendetta, especially when he's poking at Kara for being a refugee of Alderaan and whatnot.
Well, I was trying to think about this, looking at the guy in his age. I was like, how could he? But then it got me thinking again, like how you think too much. This is a character that we wouldn't have even supposed to put that much thinking into. But so he couldn't have been on the Death Star when it blew up. So he must have been a child, and his dad or his mum worked on the Death Star.
Family probably worked on it.
And he was on a school trip when the Death Star got blown up.
Yeah.
But see what I mean? We're thinking way too much about characters that we don't need to think about. But
this is kind of the problem I'm starting to feel is happening with all of these extended Star Wars universe things, and this goes for the movies too. And where I'm of the opinion that do we really need this? Because at the end of the day, it comes off a little bit. You use the word forced, and off camera I give you a little bit of shit for using that term, but this is something that to me feels forced. All these things that are obvious Star Wars legends, points of discussion that have been going on amongst the fandom for the better half of the last 30 to 40 years, right? Boba Fett, Mandalorians, all this about, oh, well, what about all of the people who lived on the Death Star who weren't part of the Empire? What about the support crew? All this stuff is... It's been discussed, so to me it feels like kind of a wink at the camera. It's like, hey, look, you guys have all talked about this kind of stuff for years, so here we go, we're doing it.
I can answer your question, do we need it? Until it stops making money, they'll keep doing it. So if there's a big enough fan base that want it, we're going to keep getting it.
But I feel like it affects the craft a little bit, which is why I'm glad that this finale did have Favreau and Filoni. Basically, they were in the writing room for this ending.
I only think it affects the craft if you allow it. I think good scriptwriters and good directors can actually use it to enhance the craft.
Yeah. So anyway, where do we go next? They basically use this as a way to spring a sort of Trojan horse type trap to get on board Gideon's cruiser.
Well, yeah, because they obviously take control of the shuttle and they go pick up and try and get the help of Bo-Katan. They go to that the planet with the power stations on it,
and they do basically what we theorized. They have other than Carl Weathers' character and Ahsoka possibly. We basically have an ensemble reuniting of everyone who we've come across to this point for a final battle type situation.
Yeah. And it's funny because as Star Wars fans, and I do it as Star Trek fans as well, whenever you see a ship in the background, you always kind of squint at it, even if it's tiny. Like there was one taking off from that when they land, and to me it looked like the Millennium Falcon.
I'd have to look back.
Yeah, because you've already seen it once. I watched it again today. It's hard to tell. It just looks like a generic shape polygon ship, but your mind reads into stuff, and to me it was like, oh, that looks like the Millennium Falcon, and it might not have even been intended, but that's what my mind saw.
So in that scene, we find out the reason Bo-Katan's willing to come along for the ride is because she wants the Darksaber back.
Yeah.
Which again, kind of a little bit of pandering. If you're watching The Mandalorian and you have no idea what any of that is, it's not really brought across with enough exposition to make it make sense to people who are not familiar with the Clone Wars.
But that's just it, though. Is it pandering, or is it setting it up so that people who watch it go, I wonder why that means such a thing? It'll make them go watch.
Well, no, because here's an example. So when I went to watch the Solo film, which isn't a bad film, really, in a vacuum, it's a good little action adventure film.
But by a vacuum, you mean it sucks all the oxygen out of your lungs?
Sure. But the person I was watching that with was really enjoying the film, and the film ended up getting brought down big time for them because of the Darth Maul inclusion at the end. And they had not watched Rebels or anything. This person, for all they knew, Darth Maul was a goner. He was dead. He was long dead after the
why
events.
Did that bring it down for them?
Well, because it was, but that's because of pandering. So that's what pandering is. It's you basically take the audience that you're aiming this at, and you spoon feed them all the things that they want, so that anyone who's coming into this just to enjoy it for what it is, for the craft, doesn't know what to expect or anything. That's not for them. It confuses the situation for that type of viewer. So pandering is generally something you do for a specific subset of your audience, and it really brings it down a little bit for those who have no idea what's being pandered to, right?
All right, I could see that. I'm sure Lucasfilm don't give a fuck,
but they did with Last Jedi, that they ruined the follow up to that.
Was it so much them, or was it more Rian Johnson as a filmmaker wanting to make something different?
No, no, because I'm talking about the pandering that happened in The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Pandering
anyway,
to the people.
Getting off topic.
Well, but it's an important piece to point out with this scene with coming across Bo-Katan. It's nice we got an introduction to her earlier on in the season, so you don't have to worry about anyone being confused about who this is. Anyone who doesn't know who Bo-Katan is after watching that episode can surmise two things: she's a Mandalorian, and she's important in the hierarchy structure of Mandalorians. So there you go. That was good setup, a good example of setup. But I feel like this little scene right here is thrown in. Oh yeah, don't forget that Darksaber's mine. Up until this point, most people who don't know about the Clone Wars they'll have seen the Darksaber being used by Moff Gideon, and they've been introduced to Bo-Katan. There's not really enough connective tissue between the two.
Yeah,
it's kind of just a point.
I kind of disagree a little bit, because I think rather than pandering, it's setting up potential storylines for season 3.
Well, that's what the intention is.
Yeah,
but it's not done. It's not done well. It comes off like pandering.
It might come across, but that to me is what I was thinking they were doing there. Especially when we get to the scene later on with.
I think you'd have to ask people who aren't familiar with the Clone Wars and Rebels if anything about the introduction of Bo-Katan and her relationship with the Darksaber confused them at all. Because, like with us, it's not confusing because we know about it. But I just know from speaking with other people who've never watched Clone Wars or Rebels that it's slightly confusing. That's all I really wanted to point out.
I could say that. But we obviously see there's a lot of animosity there between the Mandalorians and the clones, because they were used, which again, like you were saying, people who've not watched the Clone Wars, that the clones were used in and against Mandalorians.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fleshed out a little bit, the fact that she recognizes Boba's voice as he's a clone. And I like that little throwback that she goes, I've heard that voice many a times. That's
an example of what we need in order to avoid these things being pandering. That was actually probably the best thing they could have done, was play around with the dynamic between Boba and Bo-Katan and friends, because at the end of that small scene, we get this resolution and this understanding, like a silent nod between them, that we're all in this for Mandalore, right? And that goes for Boba too.
Well, yeah.
So they do things right, but they don't go far enough. The more they try to bring in from the extended universe, the more this needs to be aimed towards specifically the demographic of people who have watched those shows.
I guess so. I liked the scene in the bar. I thought again the mood and the atmosphere was pretty good in there. But then after that, we got the band back together, and we now have our little ensemble cast to go
Like the Trojan horse
do
scenario.
the rest, basically do the rescue. For me, I thought the setup was good. When they come out of hyperspace and Bob was trying to shoot them. I also the best thing about that scene I liked was the acting from Esposito. How they showed him in several clips, and it looked like something's not right, or of something, and you could see in his mind that he was very slowly figuring out that something was not right, and this wasn't just a shuttle that was being attacked.
And that's why I brought up the allusion to the Trojan horse, right? Because there's like everyone's just like assuming, oh, this is our shuttle. We got to do everything we can. We got to help them get them back on board. But he's sitting there calculating. He's been the Priam of this situation, wondering, oh, should I or shouldn't I? What's the risk here? And obviously the risk is, well, he allows his enemies on board his ship.
Yeah, and then obviously they've already decided to have a large assault as a distraction to allow Mando to do his sneaky stuff and try and get the kid.
Mm-hmm.
The scene when they come running off the shuttle, I thought was awesome. I watched a review of somebody else say that it was a very girl power scene, and again, until I watched the review, it didn't even. It kind of crossed my mind, but it looked great. It didn't cross my mind as like, "Ooh, look at this! They've thrown a girl power scene at us." It just was like, "Oh, look at all these great female characters," and it didn't feel contrived. It felt natural. It flowed.
I didn't think that at all.
And like we talked about it earlier on today, the comparison with that one to the scene in Endgame, that one felt very. Again, I'm not going to use the word forced. It felt.
It was cringy.
Yeah, it's cringeworthy. It was out of place.
So,
whereas this was four badass chicks taking on all these stormtroopers and trying to create a diversion, and it kind of turned me on a little.
So the problem with the Endgame scenario is it comes off as slightly cringy because of the delivery. This whole we're all coming together and we'll do it, and every single one of them just so happens to be all of the female heroes from the MCU.
Yeah.
In the
Mandalorian, that the one that they're trying to protect is the most powerful out of them all. Anyway,
this scene in the Mandalorian, it didn't even key in to me at all that this was a girl power moment. They were just
it was just an extremely well.
It's just
done
you
scene.
look at the group. So he's the decoy. He's piloting. So it makes sense that he's not there. Mando is going to be going on a covert mission to go find Grogu in the brig, which was established earlier. And the rest of them are there to go create a diversion and create a distraction. So it's not because they're women. It's because it's exactly. So all this threatened masculinity bullshit just doesn't bode well with me. No. I don't give a shit, and I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on.
And a diversion they did create. I thought that scene was excellent. With Ming-Na Wen kicking ass at 57, as badass as she always was. Even she ceased to defy kind of like time.
I mean, that's what happens if you keep yourself in shape.
Yeah.
We're only I'm in my 30s, you're in your 40s, and we can't even walk up the stairs without losing breath.
Doing the old man grunts. You've got Cara with that badass laser blaster machine gun. You got Bo-Katan, who fights in a style very similar to Rex, with similar looking guns as well. I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
As considering she doesn't like clones.
There is also, just real quick, something we missed during the planning of the attack stage, where Bo-Katan essentially says Gideon is for her. You have to leave Gideon.
Oh yeah, because Cara also says, well, he's wanted by the New Republic as an ex-ISB officer.
Mm-hmm.
So there was obviously going to be a bit of contest there. Bo-Katan wants to use him as an example and regain power, whereas Cara wants to take him on behalf of the New Republic as a prisoner.
But yeah, sorry, that was a backtrack. Let's keep going because we've got a lot to discuss here.
So the distraction scene was awesome. I know it's become a running joke, but man, stormtroopers go down way easily. They, they go down way too easily, and it's getting to a point now where it's becoming very obvious. It'd be nice rather than just keep throwing stormtroopers for him to shoot. Have a bit of time, and this is a slight nitpick, but have a bit of time where they're pinned down and there's a firefight going on. But it seemed like every single shot they got off killed a stormtrooper, and they have to be very careful with that because I know stormtroopers have the comedic joke that they're not very good shots, but it's getting to the point of, is there any point to them? And I equate it to the difference between two films that I really like, John Wick 1 and John Wick 2. In John Wick 1, the fight scenes are very good, but it doesn't feel like guys are just running into the end of his gun to shoot him. But in the end sequence, that's what it's like. It's like there's just another bad guy right on the end of his gun and shooting. That's kind of what this felt like a little bit.
They're just nameless orcs, basically.
Yeah, and they need to be very careful about that, though. Just tone down the amount of dead stormtroopers and have the firefight actually happen like a firefight would. Somebody pinned behind a corner until you get one shot off. You have but it seemed like every single shot that the four got off, they killed the stormtrooper.
I say just tone down the wings, right? We like what we had in the season finale of season 1, with the guys who were on the speeder bikes and they couldn't shoot like the plant from, like, tone down that shit, and then the actual cinematic. The cinematic fight scenes won't matter. It'll because they're not gonna outperform the heroes.
No, and they don't need to. But a good blaster fight doesn't need to have the heroes killing a stormtrooper every single time they pull the trigger, which is that kind of what that felt like.
But I mean, if you go back to A New Hope, so the original Star Wars movie, think about the scene on the bridge where Luke has to get his little grappling hook out so that they can swing over. What happens is he gives the blaster to Leia and he's like, so she can cover him. And they're doing the whole ducking from behind the corner, but every time she ducks out, a shoot comes and it misses. But every time they duck out, she ducks out and kills them instantly.
But that's because she's got the Force.
Yeah, but still, it's just the way it is.
Maybe if they want to go, all I would say is try and make that a little bit more realistic to how a gunfight would go.
Well, let's critique the story. Let's keep moving forward here with the plot.
Yeah, so their main objective is to cause as much mayhem as possible and get to the bridge. Well, Mando's first main objective is to neutralize the Dark Troopers. And I thought the suspense built there with the powering up of the troopers was actually really well done. It didn't feel like it was dragged out too long and it's like, oh my God, are they going to get it? I thought it was really well done to the point where one does get out, but he manages to lock the others in. And then there's an epic fight with his Beskar spear and basically him getting his ass kicked a little bit, but we also then get to see how strong Beskar armor is again.
Mm-hmm.
When he's getting punched in the face repeatedly, which I thought was pretty cool.
I was just thinking, oh man, this poor guy's head. He's suffering so much head trauma.
Not necessarily.
Well, yeah, because that's what happens at the end of the first season. He gets
he's already suffered head trauma.
I thought it was cool, definitely, that we had this moment where he's having to fight one of them, and it's showing us that if he's fighting more than one, it's over for him. He's done. It really emphasizes how powerful these things are. So that was pretty cool. I want to comment real quick on the score though during those scenes. I did not like the music that they composed, like the motif for those Dark Troopers. It was so like robotic. So that was a cool idea in concept, but speaking as a musician, from what I could hear, it was not very good. It didn't fit the universe, and it sounded more like almost like Sonic the Hedgehog, Dr. Robotnik boss fight music.
It was a little jarring.
Very like 16-bit almost.
Because it was so different to the music when you cut back our other heroes storming the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But again, seeing how good the Beskar is and seeing him take down the Dark Trooper and eject the Dark Troopers, and at that point you think, wow, good, they're gone. So you get there's the kind of like that. There's that build up, and then there's the relief that he blasted them out into space.
Yeah, which is good because it really does effectively make you, as the viewer, believe that, oh, well, that was it. That was a close call. good job, that's
you
over.
let out that sigh of relief. And at the same time, our heroes storm the bridge, do a great job of just killing everybody. And then Bo-Katan kind of like loses it a little bit because they can't find Gideon. And at that point, it was a very good surprise. I did not expect him to be in a cell.
Oh, I did. As soon as she said, "Where's Gideon?" I was like,
when she said that, but
he's going to be there.
I expected him to be on the bridge, but she says, "Where's Gideon?" And then the next scene is him in the cell.
It's a shame I had a really good visual aid of him with the Darksaber over Grogu's head, but unfortunately OBS wouldn't pick it up.
All right.
But...
So, what did you think of the storming of the bridge and the Dark Trooper fight then? Do you think it was choreographed well? I know
I've already pretty much.
I mean the way the scenes were interlaced, because we didn't just see the assault on the bridge and then go see Mando fight. I thought they were cut in.
Because I think I've already gone over what I really needed to go over on this, but if you want me to elaborate, I have to say I did have some like chuckle haha moments. But this is just who I am and who we are. When we're watching things, we always have these thoughts. But when Kara is trying to get her gun to work, because it jams at one point, right?
Yeah.
When she unjams it and she starts firing again and whatnot, all I could think about was that scene from Spaceballs where Barf pulls the pipes off the wall.
Oh yeah, pew 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 pew.
That's all I could think of at that moment.
I did think of it like that, but I do now, yeah.
And it's funny because we're talking about those girl power moments. That whole scene right there from Spaceballs has an amazing girl power moment when she gets pissed off for them shooting her in the hair.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting sidetracked. I don't have much more to say. I thought it was just really good, effective, montage-esque fight scenes to get us from boarding the ship to the standoff between Gideon and
I do want to
Mando.
say one thing about the look, and I know this is a massive gripe from Star Trek fans about the modern day Star Trek, that the ships that were done in the past look way too what's the word?
They're visual. No, it's not so much that they're advanced either, because there's a way you can make old things look more advanced. The complaint I get from watching a lot of the YouTube channels that I do, I would do a shout out, but we're not big enough channel yet to do it. But there's a channel where they do weekly reviews of this stuff, and they for the most part enjoy it, but they will always give credit where it's due and then critique where it's due as well. And one of the biggest critiques is that they don't let the visual aesthetic match the era that they're going for.
Yeah.
So, like, in Discovery, for instance, it's not that there's holograms or holographic interfaces or anything like that. It's that the ship design, the visual design in general, is too different.
Yeah. Because I thought what they've done in this show, it could have been a ship from the 70s Star Wars. But it looks like awesome.
It is. It does look like it is. If you ask me, it almost looks like the shots of the mini Star Destroyer. They look like in-camera visual effects. They don't. It doesn't look like special effects to me.
Well, but that's what I mean, though. To me, it doesn't pull me out of it and say, well, that looks like something that was made in the 70s. To me, it looks like something that exists, should exist in the Star Wars universe. And I love the fact that they kept with that aesthetic.
Do we know if they're actually using in-camera visual effects for that?
I don't know.
We'd have to look that up, because I honestly really did think that the shots of Gideon's light cruiser looked it looked like real models.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's great that they've kept the aesthetic and resisted the temptation to give it a modern day take, because it's been made now. So I think the fact that they resisted that helps this feel like a more gelled.
It's easier to do with Star Wars, because Star Wars is science fiction and fantasy, right? It's not pure science fiction.
Yeah, honestly, they could have still done it in Star Trek, but they chose not to, and that's what got them a lot of criticism.
Well, but no, they stopped doing it in Star Trek as far back as Voyager. So, like, by the time of Enterprise, it was all CGI models. There was no actual physical
I'm not
models.
saying the actual techniques they're using. I mean in the look. Now, obviously...
But we know they haven't changed the look at all since Rogue One. We know that they've been sticking with the visual design.
But that's what I mean, though. It's really good continuity.
And I think, again, it's a lot easier to do that in the Star Wars universe.
All right.
In an IP like Star Trek, you're trying really hard to maintain realism, or at least there's much realism as you possibly can, because nobody knows what technology is going to be like 300 years from now. In Star Wars, you can do whatever you want.
So anyway, that was the look. What did you think about the standoff in the prison cell?
I loved it. I actually thought the bait and switch situation where Gideon's like, I've got what I need, take the child, but I'm not giving you the Darksaber. I actually was 100% pulled in and fooled. I did not expect Gideon to turn around and fight. And as a matter of fact, I was kind of hoping that's what was going to happen. I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wishes that's actually where the episode went, and not the direction it actually did go.
Well, I agree with you a little bit, but I'll disagree with you, and I'll tell you why when we get to that part in the scene, in the show. But I was like you. I was sucked in when he goes. Oh, excuse me. When he goes in there and he's got the Darksaber over Grogu's head. I loved the way that this was scripted. That Gideon truly believed that Mando was there for the Darksaber. And Mando's like, I couldn't give two shits about your Darksaber. I'm here for the kid. That was great. The fact that the big bad actually believes that, because he's a Mandalorian, that he really thinks that he's more interested in the Darksaber and power, because that's what most Mandalorians are interested in. But Mando just doesn't give a shit. All he wants is Grogu back.
And that would have been more powerful, would it not? Because moments later, it's revealed that he doesn't think that, and that he's just saying that as a way to throw Mando off his guard, so that he can stab him in the back. And then when they're on the bridge later, he says the Darksaber and the kid are leaving with me, so showing that that it is all about the kid.
And no. But what I'm saying though is
I know what you're saying. I'm saying that would have been better.
Yeah,
that would have been better if that's
to Gideon. Both are as important.
No, but it would have been better. Is what I'm saying. Is if it both weren't important. If it was, what the scene was saying was in fact what was happening, and that it wasn't a double cross.
Yeah, I get what you mean there, but I'm saying what shook me is the fact that Gideon didn't realize that Mando doesn't care about the Darksaber. He truly believed that Mando was there for both.
Oh, but we knew Mando didn't care about the Darksaber.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it was how well it was scripted and written that Gideon didn't realize that.
Yeah, to the
point. That's why he stood there with the saber over Grogu's head. And Mando's like, no, I just want the kid.
I still think, though, that Gideon was also planning all along, though, to stab him in the back. It didn't matter. Gideon wants both.
Exactly, Gideon wants both, and that's what he was planning to do.
But it doesn't bother me ultimately too much, because it does, in my opinion, then lead to one of the best, I guess you can call it a lightsaber duel, one of the best duels I've ever seen in Star Wars.
And it was awesome that, as I say, so we got the attack, which I didn't see coming, but I also liked the look on Gideon's face, because he didn't realize Beskar. He obviously didn't realize Beskar could stop lightsabers. Because when he does that first strike, it's a very quick flash up of Esposito's face, and there's a look of shock on his face as he turns around and the fight starts.
Yeah,
and then they fight out into the hallway. I also like, just going back to that, the fact that it plays on Gideon being an extremely good strategist, and he even says to him, "You should think that I know everything that's going to happen," to the point where he knows about his fired his wrist thing. But he doesn't know that Beskar armor deflects lightsabers. So on one hand, it shows he's a tactician, and he's always strategizing one step ahead of his enemies. But he's also fallible, that he didn't realize that his double cross wasn't going to work, because he was going to hit Mando in the back of a Beskar armor.
Yeah.
Then, like you say, the choreographed fight scene was awesome. We got the throwback to the Beskar spear that he got off Ahsoka, which he'd already used a phenomenal use against the Dark Trooper. And I just want to say this was not a Star Wars Kids episode. The violence was kicked up a notch, a little bit like it was in the Boba Fett episode done by Robert Rodriguez. You see Mando choke out a stormtrooper and then break his neck, and it was pretty violent.
That's not violent in my eyes. If I had kids, I would let them watch this.
Well, let's put it this way: it ain't Disney.
Sure.
I,
That's
I,
why
I
though
don't,
when you log into Disney Plus though, right? You've
yeah,
got the Disney, you've got the Disney stuff, and then you've got the Star Wars stuff.
I
So.
don't remember the neck breaking scene in Snow White.
Yeah, but there is some dark stuff in
it
the
is pretty dark,
cartoons.
but
Though.
that's the dark. Sorry, but yeah, the choreographed fight scene was awesome. And he eventually gets defeated. They get then I think he brings him to the bridge, and this is where they're setting up now season 3. This is a very tiny little maybe 5 to 7 back and forth with Moff Gideon in handcuffs, him basically trying to pour fuel on the fire. You got Mando stood with a saber ignited. Great acting from Katie Sackhoff's look on her face. Cara in the background just kind of like going, what's he on about? And the dialogue backwards and forwards here was very good. The only thing I didn't like was it's technically not true. And that's because Sabine Wren wins the Darksaber of Gar Saxon in Rebels and then gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan. She doesn't defeat Sabine to get it.
Yeah, so what you wanted was some pandering. This work
continuity.
No, but okay. So does it really that egregiously break continuity so much? Because the internal continuity of the Mandalorian, to people who have not seen that stuff, it doesn't matter. All they need to realize is like, oh look, Mando doesn't care. He's got it. He just wants her to take it, but she is like set in her ways. She can't. She's like, no, I have to win this. I have to be the one to win this.
Yeah, but she's
that's all you need to know.
Not from winning it though. And I was surprised it was done that way because that
yeah, but Matthew, Darth Maul was dead at once upon a time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is though that story and that way of scripting of Sabine giving the Darksaber to Bo-Katan,
Anakin Skywalker didn't have an apprentice.
Was written by Filoni, so for him to kind of forget his own writing seemed
Obi-Wan doesn't seem to ever remember owning a droid. Like this is where I don't agree with canon Puritans.
But hang on. Obi-Wan not remembering a droid is a dumbass piece of writing.
Not necessarily, because you could also you can explain that away. He could just be saying he could just be saying it because it's like you keep your mouth shut. R2.
I would have expected it.
I'm just saying.
If this was a mishmash of different writers, I would agree. But it's not nitpick because this is potentially keying up the story for season 3. Because the way that this season ended, I see next season going down the line of a potential second Mandalorian civil war.
Okay, so just
Mando and Bo-Katan.
clarify for me because I've not watched too much of the Clone Wars. I've only seen a couple of seasons. You're saying Bo-Katan, the last time she got the Darksaber, she didn't have to physically win it from someone.
No, so what happens in Rebels is Gar Saxon...
No, I know what happens in Rebels.
That's it. That's the last time it happens. Sabine defeats Gar Saxon and claims the Darksaber. So technically she should be leader of the Mandalorians, but Sabine don't want to do that. So she knows Bo-Katan's a better choice for leader, so she gives her the Darksaber. So there you go. And Bo-Katan becomes the leader. And then during the Purge, she obviously lost the saber to the Empire.
So the similarity being then when Mando's like begging her to take it,
and she's like, no, I can't.
Okay, however,
she's already done it once.
Let's just try to find a way to not make this a plot hole and just a mere contrivance. If Sabine won it, but Sabine is also like she's a true Mandalorian, and what's her relation to Bo-Katan?
She helped defeat Gar Saxon and in the Mandalorian.
So there's no actual blood relation of any kind. Okay, no. So, but she is a real pure blood Mandalorian who won it fair and square, and is deciding to step down
and give it
to Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
So now what you could say is, it's the way Mando is, because he doesn't know about that sort of stuff. It's the way he is trying to give it up to her. He would need to approach it the same way Sabine does in Rebels, but because
but Gideon makes a point of that. You can't just do that. It's the story that's behind it. So I understand why they're doing it because, as I said, this is where I think they're going to go with season 3. it's going to be a conflict between Mando and him going more away from being this Mandalorian bounty hunter to reclaiming being a Mandalorian.
And that's why I'm calling it a nitpick, because realistically, what this is it's more of Don't interrupt. Let me finish. It's more of Bo-Katan's issue. It's more of her hang-up than it is any real set in stone rule. Yes. Just in the same way that she called him out earlier on in the season for wearing the helmet, right? So I don't know.
It just seemed an odd way of trying to create tension. But again, great acting from Esposito because he did. he was the one who actually charged the atmosphere between the two of them.
Two grown men freaking out about this shit.
Yeah, and you could tell from the way it was shot that Bo-Katan really thought some of it. And again, Mando just didn't give a shit. Like, fuck it, I don't want this shit.
So anyway, this basically gets us caught up now to the moment.
To probably the part that 99.9% of Star Wars fans have been waiting for 30 odd years.
Okay, well, do you want to prime it up for us?
Okay, so you've obviously got this down, and they're trying to set up a bit of tension between Bo-Katan and Mando, and Gideon's trying to fan the flames. And then the alarm goes off, and we see that the Dark Troopers are flying back towards the ship. And it's the full platoon, and we set up for what we think is a final showdown between our heroes and the Dark Troopers. They close the blast doors. I did one thing I want to put on this blast door thing. Yeah, the tension of the Dark Troopers punching the doors and the doors getting battled in. It was good tension, but I just thought they're pretty shitty blast doors if some robots can punch them down.
Not just any robots, Dark Troopers.
Dark Trooper robots.
Rock'em sock'em robots.
Well, they did have a very Terminator feel about them, I'll say that.
I thought they looked like Rock'em Sock'em robots when they were doing that.
Do you know what they did look like Rock'em Sock'em, but do you know what I thought of more than Terminator? They had a very Cylon feel about them.
Sure.
And I don't mean like the digitally ones from the new BSG, but like the old
digital
style,
ones.
Yeah, the old style Cylons about them. But they were very menacing, but with poor music. But you've got this now building this kind of tension of
I'm not saying the music was poor, it just didn't resonate with me.
What I didn't think worked is you had the music for the Dark Troopers whilst the fight for the bridge was going on, and the music was so different. I think that's what was jarring.
Yeah, like it'd be like going from Enya to like Yakety Sack.
Yeah, so that's what was jarring for me. If it was more like they were all more in tune and flowed together, it would have been better. But you do have this now, them smashing in the door, and Gideon's basically telling them, "You're
just
all
get
dead."
to it, come on.
And then we hear another bleep on the radar. Mando looks to his left, and you see a single X-wing. And I think Kara says, "Oh, one single X-wing. We're saved." Hang on. There we go.
I'm already way ahead of you.
Yeah, but that's why I saved it for this point. And when I saw that X-wing, I jumped off the couch. I was like, "No fucking way, no!" Because we can hands down say we were so wrong. We said we might get a hint at a Jedi. It's probably going to be Ezra or Cal Kestis. But oh my fucking god!
See, I really wish I wasn't, though.
You'd really wish it wasn't what?
I really wish I wasn't wrong.
Oh no! This ending was perfect. This ending was absolutely phenomenal.
Okay, well, take us through it. We'll get to points once you've taken us through it.
So obviously, the X-wing shows up, and I couldn't believe it. And again, I'm still saying, no, come on, that can't be true. That can't be true. And then they're trying to get the ident off the radio. Nothing. And then now from this point on, the music for the rest of the show was phenomenal. I loved the
take us through the scene. Come on.
So I think the first scene you see is of a hooded Jedi walking down a corridor from behind. And again, I was like, no, this can't be. And then all of a sudden, ignites a green lightsaber and just kicks the crap out of everything. Goes full Jedi Master on these guys' ass. Cuts down all these Dark Troopers, and it's interspliced with excellent music.
Interspliced?
Interplaced with great music, and Grogu looking on the TV screen with Mando. He then goes in the elevator. Then the elevator doors open, and there's what I would see is a pretty good homage to his dad out of Rogue One. A scene down a corridor where he just cuts everything to pieces. He uses the Force. He crushes a droid with the Force. And then Mando says, "Open the door." And I think it is Fennec says, "Are you crazy?"
We were both wrong, by the way. The word is interspersed.
Interspersed, yeah. And he goes and opens the door, and there's a hooded Jedi stood there with a green lightsaber. And now there comes to the only part I didn't like. When he reveals himself, the CGI took me completely out of the moment. To the point where I watched it the first time, I didn't even hear in my mind, because I was so taken out by the CGI, Twin Suns, Binary Stars playing. But it was Luke Skywalker, which was awesome. He was kicking ass. I believe they used Mark Hamill's voice. I read somewhere that they de-aged Mark Hamill, but I don't think they did. If they'd have de-aged him, it would have looked way better. It was very Rogue One-esque in the way it looked. But the fact that Luke Skywalker came in and saved the day.
So, do you want to know what I thought it looked like?
Go on.
Just real quick. No, so you know the Moonwalker, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker?
Yeah.
You know, like the scene where they do the music video for the Highway Chase song. You know, like the weird clay monster people that are chasing after him.
Yeah.
Like they got big heads, but like really teeny features. That's exactly what I was thinking of. That's what it looked like. His features looked like too central. Like someone had taken a picture of Mark Hamill from the Return of the Jedi. They'd used the wand tool on his face and then like cropped it all in smaller. It didn't fit. The facial feature didn't fit the head. It was so weird and frightening.
It built me up, and it was like awesome. Luke Skywalker did save there, and then he just released. As I say, it took me out of the moment so much. I didn't realize until I watched it the second time today that Binary Suns plays, John Williams' scores plays, which is my favorite piece of music from all of Star Wars.
So can I nitpick now? How did he find him?
Same way Grogu reached out to him.
But Grogu had to go to that special seeing stone thing on that planet to reach out.
But now I'm going to go the way you said. Ahsoka says, put him on the seeing stones and he'll reach out, and if some Jedi hears him, he'll find him. Space wizard. There we go.
Okay, but that's why I am admitting I'm nitpicking, though.
Yeah, space wizard. But so up until the reveal of the face, what did you think of the entrance?
Well, it was like watching Rogue One, the opposite of watching Rogue One, when you see Vader come in. As a matter of fact, it very much mirrored that scene.
Yeah, it was like a homage to that scene.
Not quite homage. To me, it mirrored the scene. It was the same scenario, except instead of Vader against some rebels, it was Luke against some Imperials.
And it was obvious that in both of those scenes, it's obvious that the two Sith, two Force wielders, are not even breaking a sweat.
So it's cool, and I am kind of excited because I'm a Star Wars fan. It's more of the nostalgia though that's making me like enjoy this as it's happening. It felt a little bit like that Rogue One scene where I'm like, this is just here, like just because it's going to make Star Wars fans cream their pants.
Yeah, but that's why the movie's on the screen.
Okay, no. So Rogue One, we'll just let me just go set this up a little bit, because in Rogue One the movie's over by that point. Our heroes have died, and they've achieved their task, and the ship now has the plans, but they're just like, well, we need a lightsaber on screen.
I don't think that's what they.
Yeah, of course it is. There's no stakes anymore. Like the story of Rogue One is over at this point.
Yeah, but
we didn't need to have Darth Vader chasing a bunch of rebels down the corridors, watching the ship fly away, creating its own continuity problem. It just.
Okay, so
that's how I feel about this whole Luke Skywalker showing up to save the day scene, really.
So
it would have been better. It would have been a lot better. I would have enjoyed it more if they would have just recast Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah, 100%. That should have been Sebastian Stan.
Well, or anyone, just like I don't care about who it is. They needed to recast someone. They've got to stop bringing people back from the dead.
Yeah.
It's not working. It's too close to the uncanny valley that it's triggering the part of our lizard brain, I think it is, that's causing us to either react awkwardly to these things or react almost like nervously to these things. I didn't like the way he looked. It's not just because it pulled me out of it. It just looks weird, and it's the same thing about me being annoyed about having Boba Fett, the original actor of Boba Fett's crate, basically been erased from history now. It's the same sort of issue. Having what's going to happen eventually when we have the Mandalorian reboot 50 years from now? Is everyone on screen just going to be some CGI monster?
So let's put it this way, right? I just want to tackle one thing that you said at the start of this. The scene in Rogue One is there for Star Wars fans. Rogue One was made for Star Wars fans and the odd occasional people who've never seen Star Wars. That movie is not made for anyone else except Star Wars fans and maybe 2% of other people. And Lucasfilm don't care.
Did you know that
they can make
99% of all statistics are made up on the spot?
On the spot, yeah. Lucasfilm know that they can make billions of dollars just by selling to Star Wars fans. So Lucasfilm don't care. And the worst thing is the scene in Rogue One with Darth Vader.
They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to do that.
It's the best scene in the movie.
They're not going to be able to do that forever. Once you and me are like dead, can they continue to do that? What do you think young Star Wars fans today want? They don't give a shit. I tell you now, the young new Star Wars fans, if they're interested, are more interested in the character of Ahsoka Tano and Mando Din Djarin than they are of Luke Skywalker. I will take it an extra step. I will take it an extra step, and I will say that could have been anyone else. It could have been Ezra.
So in 20 years' time, when you've got new characters on the screens, the throwbacks will be Mando and Ahsoka Tano. That's the way it'll work.
Well, if we can move on a little bit here, we'll talk more about Luke at the end because we've got no prediction things really to go into. But if we move on, I can better explain why I feel this way. Because in my opinion, I get pulled back into it now when we have the moment where Din meets with Luke, and he's a little bit hesitant, doesn't know, he's being protective of Grogu, and he says, "Come, little one." Right.
Oh, before we go into that, can I bring up one other excellent?
Yeah, because I might have missed something.
Acting that just before that is you say that it could have been anyone, but the acting from Esposito when he sees the X-wing and he sees a green sabered hooded Jedi on his ship, the look of fear and terror in his eyes because he knows who it is. Nobody else on the bridge knows who's there except Moff Gideon.
Oh, he's a fantastic actor. Definitely.
And the fear that he shows to the point where rather than get caught by Luke Skywalker, he'd rather blow his own brains out.
I actually thought he was gonna be able to go through with it as well.
Oh no, I thought that was brilliant. But that scene adds to Luke chopping down all the things. The sheer fear of this Empire bigwig because he knows who's on his ship to save the day. That was brilliant. That was excellent, in fact.
He's a very good actor, is Giancarlo Esposito, yes.
But then, now we come to the he
says to him,
and now's your time to start crying.
He says to him, "Come, little one," and Din's like, he doesn't want to go with you. And when he said, and credit where it's due, the line that Luke says when he looks back at Din and he's like, he wants your approval. That's where I'm like, oh, my heart. And then they have that moment where they have the little heart-to-heart and he touches his mask, and so he chooses to take his helmet off and let them see each other eye to eye, and he gives him the nod, and then we have another little, which in my opinion, this little piece of pandering, it made me happier than Luke showing up, R2-D2 walking in on the scene, and he goes with him, and he picks him up, and that's it.
Well, that entire last scene was designed to make grown men cry. I thought, from a computer-generated and rubber puppet, the emotion they've got out of Grogu is phenomenal. And when he's talking to him and he shows him his face and he says, "I'll see you again," that the whole interaction between a grown man and an inanimate object basically is phenomenal.
You know what though? It just right now just made me think of that scene at the end of The Three Amigos when he's like, "I'll come back for you," and she's like, "Why?"
Yeah.
It's like Mando says, "I'll see you again." And Grogu's like, "Why?"
Why? Why not? Because like I think Luke says it. He goes, "You have a great bond with him."
Yeah.
That was great. And then I think the best way.
No,
to
isn't
end
it Gideon who says that? I can see your bond.
I think they both say. But I think it's worded slightly different.
It's kind of again the mirroring scene.
Yeah. But like he says, he won't be safe until he's mastered his training, which means Luke's obviously going to take him off to his new Jedi temple and train him up.
And they're not going to have him be part of that generation of Jedi who get betrayed by Ben Solo, of course. It wouldn't surprise me if Grogu we're going to get into theory crafting probably, but it wouldn't surprise me if Grogu goes the way of Ahsoka and he grows up and becomes more of a grey Jedi type situation.
Or he is one of the ones who grows up while Ben's a youngling, and he's one who goes out to kind of like find other Jedis, and he's still out there now.
Yeah, that too. Either way, that's just one of the first things I saw on Twitter after I watched the episode, because naturally I'm on Twitter after
Someone
this
said,
one.
yeah, he survived the culling by Anakin only to be killed by Ben Solo.
Yeah.
No, I never said
We
that.
don't know that for sure.
We've come to know that he's about 50 years old, so he's got 850 more years before he's Yoda's age.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be around for a long time. And if he's way ahead of Ben in age and training.
Ben's not even born yet, I don't think.
Yeah, he's way more powerful, so he would probably be gone by the time Ben turns.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. So R2 shows up. I like that. That was a nice little throwback to see R2. Luke takes him, walks down the corridor, door closes, and scene.
But see, to me, now going back, you replace Luke with a different actor, or you replace the character of Luke with a different character. Maybe another Jedi who has been trained already by Luke or something would probably make that scene, in my opinion, for everyone better. And I know you're going to pull the whole, "Oh, well, this was made for Star Wars fans." And I'm like, but that's the problem people have with pandering, is that yes, it's made for Star Wars fans, but it's also got to be made for new Star Wars fans.
So
I think it would have been better if we'd have still been, if this moment was more about Din and Grogu and less, but it's hard for it to be in the shadow of green lightsaber wielding Luke Skywalker showing up. His presence kind of overshadows the ending a little bit to me.
I don't think it did. I think the only thing that I agree with there is they should have just recast. Because I don't know why.
That's one way to make it better, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know why, because they're owned by the same company. But Marvel do such a phenomenal job of de-aging people, and Lucasfilm can't fucking do it. It's weird.
Well, on TV, I think it's obviously a little bit harder because of budgetary reasons. But yes, they've not done a good job in the film so far. But I think it's more
good job.
I disagree. I think Grand Moff Tarkin looked good, but the problem with Grand Moff Tarkin is he's one of the main characters of that film. He's used far too much. You look at the
every time he talks, it looks.
You look at the MCU situation now. Other than maybe Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel, the vast majority of the de-aging scenes are used sparingly.
Yeah, think about the best one I've seen out of the Marvel universe is, I would say, Kurt Russell in Guardians 2 at the beginning.
Yes.
And probably his screen time's the exact same amount of time Luke Skywalker's face is on the screen.
You don't really get to see him up front talking lots.
No. And the thing is,
because it's as soon as they start talking, and this even goes for the Marvel Universe de-aging. As soon as they start talking, it's really hard to get the intricate movements of a person's lips down.
Well, we talked about it last week just over coffee, didn't we? That somebody since Rogue One has come out has used deepfake technology to get a better Grand Moff Tarkin than the one that Rogue One did on the movie budget.
And deepfakes uses algorithms, it uses programs, and so the programs and the algorithms are able to keep up.
Which makes me think this wasn't deepfake. It makes me think this was got all computer generated.
It's not a deepfake. I don't think anyone has used deepfake technology in a film yet, other than these people like the YouTube channel Corridor, for instance.
Yeah.
I think might be the one you're talking about.
Collider.
Not Corridor. Collider's an old defunct
Yeah.
channel.
The worst thing about
Go
this
check
was,
out Corridor. They're really good. They're a visual effects group. I'll put them in the description soon as I've talked about them.
Yeah, I watched them. They recreated the Tron light cycle with modern technology.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only thing that didn't ruin it. It was a downer for me. And from what we've seen of people doing fan art of Sebastian Stan as a young Luke Skywalker, a real person can interact, talk. They could have even just dubbed Mark Hamill's voice over it if that's what they so wanted.
No, don't even do that.
What it says to me,
we've never had to do that in the past. We've never had to do it before. They made an entire brand new series of Star Trek films using the original characters and recast them all, and it works.
Yeah.
It's fine. Why I don't understand why the Star Wars universe are so afraid of recasting people.
The one thing it says to me is, the fact that they didn't recast it is, one, obviously they wanted to keep it a secret. So probably the only people that knew it were the people that did the CGI and Mark Hamill who did the lines. And two...
And whoever did the choreography.
Yeah. And two, we're not going to see Luke Skywalker in any future episodes. This was just his little bit to, like you say, not pander, but to pay off the fans that have been wanting to see this for 30 years. But that is it. We will not
all the
see
more
Luke...
reason to recasting, because now you can just recast a look-alike and a sound-alike, and you don't need him to be the best actor in the world. You just have a stunt double doing all the choreography, and then you just have this bit extra actor standing in for a 3-minute scene at the end of this series, and then that's it.
And
it was a bad choice.
He could have kept his hood down, just shown a little bit of his face and then it was a bad choice to use that CGI, because as I say, it took me out of the moment. I was so hyped for it. And then, as I say, it took me out of the moment so much I didn't notice one of the best pieces of Star Wars music being played until I watched it a second time round.
I noticed.
As I say, it was that jarring for me last night when I watched it. I was like, ugh. I've seen, honestly, Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077 commercial looks better.
That doesn't look bad at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Video games have actually done a much better job of bringing people's faces into the computer-generated realm. Mostly because they're surrounded by 100% computer-generated environments.
So, but why is the company that has pioneered some of the most phenomenal CGI techniques for the last 40, 50 years, why are they so shit at this?
They're not shit at it. This one, I feel, will be budgetary reasons. It looked so jarring. If there was more money to be spent, if this was a feature film, probably would have been much better, especially considering the character they're doing. The real problem comes down to the fact, and again, go to Corridor and give them a subscribe and go watch their videos, because they're great. They're a good bunch of visual effects artists. But they say this, and it's where I pretty much picked it up from: lip movement. Look at the way my lips are moving, right? They're so different, so intricate, that in order to get that down, you have to pretty much hand animate every single movement in order to get it right. And even then, you're pushing your luck.
I agree with you that budgetary constraints might have been the issue here, but we haven't seen any real effects throughout this entire season where we thought, oh, they cheaped out a little bit there. And as much as I disliked the movie, I went back and watched that scene from Rise of Skywalker with him and Leia. It's as bad as this, and that's a billion-dollar movie.
Well, the Leia face looks very bad. The Luke face doesn't look too bad.
It looks as bad as this. Watch it again. As I say, after I watched it the second Mandalorian,
I've watched that movie more times than you have already.
No. What I'm saying is, I watched the Mandalorian for the second time today, and then I brought up on my computer and watched just that scene. It's very similar to what we've got.
Anyway, the semantics. The reason I'm saying that it doesn't look good is because it's a very tough thing to do. We haven't 100% mastered it yet, and you can cite the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies all you want, but other than Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel, it's used very sparingly, and to this day we can't get lip movements down.
No, this scene perfectly led itself to de-aging Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't even need to make him look... Because they basically made him look like he just stepped off...
Well, it's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Yeah,
it looked like he'd just come from the party with the Ewoks to pick him up.
It's 5 years after the Return of the Jedi, so you could have pretty easily made what is he, 65 now, Mark Hamill? 65-year-old Mark Hamill look
40-year-old
15 years younger, maybe 40 years old.
Yeah.
You could have done that. But hey, you know what? Then you would have had to pay Mark Hamill to
But they paid him to do the voice anyway.
Did they have to pay him for the likeness as well?
Probably.
I don't know.
But
Paying him for a couple of lines of voice acting is very different.
I loved the entire episode. That was the only thing I didn't like about the episode. Was like with you, the CGI just took me out of it a little bit.
I'm just more of a, like, I don't hate it. You know me. I try to stay on the middle ground of these issues because at the end of the day, these things really don't matter at all. It's just entertainment.
See, and I'm the opposite. I'm either Sith or Jedi, depending on the day.
Yeah. So I would have preferred that Mando would have figured a way out of the situation, but that's also because I wasn't expecting them to resolve the Grogu storyline so soon.
Well, yeah, we both didn't expect any Jedi. We said there might be a hint of who Grogu reached out to, and we were so wrong.
So should we? Is that it? That pretty much ends there, right?
Well, then we've got the odd.
We'll talk about that in a second. Have we covered everything from the episode?
We've covered everything from the episode.
So let's give our ratings then.
Blaster rating.
Out of 10, yeah.
9.5 out of 10.
So I'm at a 7.5 out of 10.
The 0.5 is the Mark Hamill face.
I'm at a 7.5 out of 10.
See, and the reason why I'm so high, I'll just quickly clarify this, is it would have been a 10 out of 10 because if Mark Hamill had been recast as Sebastian Stan, or it would have been phenomenal CG, to me, it was a perfect way of bookending the child's story in the Mandalorian universe. There was no beat throughout the episode that I didn't like except that CGI.
And I don't go over 8.0 out of 10 because for me that means it's outstanding. Not Emmy worthy necessarily, but it's outstanding television, and it wasn't. There's been better episodes this season. My favorite episode, in retrospect, we will do this too, I think, because that's the end of the season. My favorite episode, in retrospect, is episode 1.
No, not for me.
I really liked Timothy Oliphant's presence on screen, and I really enjoyed just the whole Monster of the Week plot of that episode. The fact that we developed the what do you call it? Tusken Raiders. That's the politically correct term. The fact that we developed them, I just thought as a standalone story it works. It's probably one of the few episodes of the season I could go watch without having to watch any more of them. That being said, it is the first episode, so that's not too hard. And that episode I would have given an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. See, this was my favorite episode, and then my second favorite episode was The Believer last week.
So the rest of the season for you must have been a real downer then, because that was a 7.5 for you.
The rest of the season was good except the second episode. That's the only episode I didn't like.
The second episode was boring. It wasn't bad. It was just boring.
There was nothing to it. Whereas every single episode, apart from that one, had a point. It furthered the story.
I think on a whole, I give the season 7.5 out of 10.
I like this season better than the first season.
No, I don't.
I do. It developed Din more. It brought us some really good character development. It developed a character that I never thought I thought would want to see developing in Boba Fett, and it's developed him, and it makes me want to see more.
Well, it hasn't developed him too much, but but
it's developed him to the point where I want to see more.
Well, and that gives us a good segue for the closing credit scene.
So, I've got to ask you this on the closing credit scene. First off, I just want to say I loved the scene. I thought it was awesome. I thought, although the one thing I thought, the dude, I forgot what his name is.
I'm looking him up right now because I know what you're about to say.
I thought he was on the barge with Jabba when it blew up.
Yeah, hold on. What's his name? Keep talking about your issue with that. I'll get his name.
So my issue is this. First off, I thought he was on the barge in Return of the Jedi when it blew up. But if he's not, I don't have an issue with it. And life's been good to him.
He was.
Yeah, I thought he was on the barge. But life's been good to him. He obviously took over and filled the void from Jabba. He's got a bit portly by enjoying the spoils of being a criminal. And I just love the fact that Boba came in and just dispatched him like that.
Bib Fortuna.
Bib Fortuna, yeah.
Yeah, so he was.
He was, yeah.
And this is why I say you were calling me out about continuity problems earlier, and it's like
I was just like, when I saw him, I was like,
it's Star Wars, man. You can basically pick and choose your continuity. Yeah. Like canon is important to some degree, but not 100%.
When they went to the scene, and it's like Tatooine, Jabba's palace. What we're doing here? Then we see him, and then Fennec comes in. I was like, oh, it's Boba, and he just comes in and dispatches him straight away with his blaster as well. If you notice that,
he probably he'd had to have got a new one because Luke chopped the muzzle off of the original one.
Off that one, and then he just sits on that throne.
Stop talking over me.
Looks all badass, and we get it flashed up. The book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, so there's another TV show, I guess, something that we haven't been told about. I honestly, to me, I'm like, I wish my theory from last week would have come to fruition. I wish you'd have gone out guns a-blazing in a blazing fire of glory, and Din Djarin became the owner of Slave One. I wanted that to happen. I guess we didn't know we wanted the Mandalorian, so I don't know if I want a Boba Fett show. So I guess I'll find out.
Well, let's talk about that. At the investors meeting, I think it was last month, they announced Mandalorian Season 3 for December 2021. There wasn't an announcement of any Boba Fett standalone. So...
Is it a movie?
Well, no, there was no standalone mentioned about Boba Fett a month ago. And obviously this has been filmed.
Well, but it makes sense with this being kind of a surprise reveal that they wouldn't have let us know.
What about the book of Boba Fett just being a chapter of The Mandalorian?
Sure.
And that coming next year is the book of Boba Fett, which is just Mandalorian Season 3, and it's called The Book of Boba Fett.
I don't know. I've not got any real opinions on that whole ending. I didn't really
do anything, but as I say, up until I saw Boba Fett this series, I didn't know I wanted to see more Boba Fett stuff. But now
it was cool, like in execution, like him sitting down on the throne and then Fennec kind of like leaning up against the throne and whatnot. It was very
drinking some blue.
Yeah,
juice.
It was cool. Like I'll give it that, and I'll give it a an A, but.
Well, I'll tell you what it will get, dude.
I don't know. It's like
it'll get people theory crafted.
It certainly will, and so we're running out of time here. So let's get real quick onto our theory crafting. Where do you think, in a nutshell, we're going to be going with Season 3?
So I think Season 3 will all be built around the tensions of Din, Bo-Katan, and the Darksaber.
Cool. I would like that because, especially considering what we were talking about earlier about pandering and what some audience members will and won't know, let's delve in. Let's dive into that.
And it's a great way of getting Sabine into the episode as well, into the series.
And also, we had a commenter on one of our lives from last week pointing out that it feels like every episode of this show kind of follows the same formula. So it would be nice to see if they can. 3 seasons in, they've got the solid ground beneath their feet now. They've had a good start. Regardless of what you think of the ending to this season, people are loving this show. It's overall quite well received. So with this 3rd season, let's try something. Let's try changing the formula a little bit. Let's go and make something a little bit more interesting and story driven.
Seasons?
Sorry?
Is it 8?
It's 8 so far, yeah.
So what they could do, again, with it being Filoni and Favreau, is the last season of Clone Wars, which bookended that series really nicely, there was 12 episodes, but it was it was segmented into 3 4-episode chunks, which were like mini stories. So 4 episodes was a story, 4 episodes was a story, 4 episodes were a story. So they could kind of take that route where, like, let's say they do 9 episodes. So the first 3 episodes are a story arc. And then the next 3 episodes are a story arc. And then the last 3 episodes are a story arc. But they're all, even though they're separate stories, they're all interlinked in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then we can have rather than just the episode of the week, which we've done for 2 seasons, like you say, change it up a bit and go to a more episodical story.
Yeah. I would like to see some form of change like that happen with moving forward.
Because if you do that as well, you can then cover a bigger topic the leadership of the Mandalorian race.
And I wasn't thinking that we were going to have any resolution to Din's background, but what happened to him as a kid, what happened to his family, and all that. That's something
I don't want to see that.
I think that's something they will eventually. They will open up on that. It's going to happen, but I feel like you save that for possibly bring that into kind of the final season of the show, like having the last thing that he has to really deal with and resolve is getting some sort of vengeance or closure on what happened to him, something like that. But other than that, I've got very little to say. I have not very many opinions of where it's going to go from here, and that's the one good thing I think this show does for an audience member like myself. I don't know where it's going to go,
it keeps
and
you
I'm
coming back for more.
I'm happy to at least be on the edge of my seat, as it were, wondering what's going to happen next. So, any final thoughts?
On the Mandalorian, no, but I want to ask you, out of all the announcements that were put out, which series are you looking forward to most, including season 3 of The Mandalorian?
So season 3 of The Mandalorian probably is the one I'm looking forward to the most because I already know what to expect, and I do really like the character of Din Djarin. That being said, as someone who does like Rebels and what I've seen of the Clone Wars, and I do like the character of Ahsoka, probably the Ahsoka TV series.
So those are the two you're looking forward to the most?
Yeah. I don't really care about anything else, to be honest.
Where do you think the Ahsoka storyline is going to go? Do you think it's going to be very intertwined with Thrawn and maybe Ezra coming back?
Yes, but I also believe they're going to do a kind of past-present type sort of like progression of the storyline where we're going to see what happened in the intervening years with Ahsoka.
Or like when she goes looking for...
Almost Tarantino-esque. Yeah, almost Tarantino-esque in the way it's going to be portrayed.
That would be good. Sit over several...
that's what I want. Obviously, there's no way I can predict that that's what they're going to do, but I would like to see that.
Yeah, that would be a good way of doing it because there's so many gaps in Ahsoka's timeline that we don't know what she did. Because we know she was Fulcrum in Rebels, we know when she left Clone Wars with Rex, and now we know where she's shown up with the Mandalorian. But there's the part where she's looking for Ezra. There's the part in between getting back from Ezra and finding the Mando.
Yeah.
So there is lots of different eras. Me personally, the number one thing I'm looking forward to is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So I didn't really want to talk about this on this live stream because this is a Mandalorian live stream.
This was just what we're looking forward for the future.
Well, so you probably wonder why Obi-Wan wasn't on my list. Since finding out about the casting of Anakin, Darth Vader, and bringing Aiden Christensen back, I'm now a little concerned because I don't want them to meet. I want them to. The last time that they met was on Mustafar. That's how I want it to stay. If they meet, I'm checked out of the Obi-Wan series.
I'm with you on that. But what I would like, if they bring in Hayden back, is it basically be a week to week of him hunting down
and never quite getting close enough.
Yeah, and always be that one step behind. That's what I'm looking for.
Or you could even have it, the culmination of that, have it where he actually does get close to getting him, and Obi-Wan like just escapes on a Jedi fighter or something, and he has a little holographic meeting with him, and he says, "You're too slow, my apprentice." And then that's kind of it. But I am a little bit worried. I don't want to get too much into it, but I'm a little concerned.
For me, the excitement is just seeing. Originally, it was just seeing Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan. Yeah. But now Hayden's come back on as Anakin.
Well, let me give you my quick pitch because we should do an episode on this possibly. But here's my quick pitch. I wanted the Obi-Wan series to be set exclusively on Tatooine, and we never go into outer space, and you don't ever see him with his lightsaber because he knows he can't reveal who he is, and most of his exploits are very Wild West saloon type.
You mean like Kung Fu?
Yeah, and then in the finale of maybe season 1, or if you can hold off all the way to the series finale, you finally have a showdown where he has no choice but to whip out the lightsaber and do some Jedi stuff. That's kind of what
Darth Maul.
That's what I was hoping would happen, but no.
And we could, if in the Obi-Wan series, I really want them to do a live-action version of the Twin Sons episode with Ewan McGregor and Ray Park. Sure. It can be beat for beat, but as long as we get to see those two on screen again, it'd be awesome. I'm also really looking forward to see where they go from with the Mandalorian because I think they bookended the child story awesome, and Grogu leaving Mando was very moving, but I want to see where Mando goes from here. I want to see
Yeah.
his character develop more, because I think Pedro Pascal is great as the Mandalorian. To get so much emotion out of never seeing his face and talking through a mask is very good acting.
It's very similar, actually, to what we got with the Dread movie.
Yeah, they're perfect example.
Yeah.
I want to see another one of them as well.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's our thoughts on Season 2 of The Mandalorian, more specifically the Season 2 finale entitled The Rescue. I'm going to throw it off to Matthew here to lead us out.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us. If you've liked what you've seen here, you've got any of your own thoughts, please leave comments down below and we'll answer them, because we'd like to get your theories as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications, give thumbs up to the video. And come join us again, where I believe, Michael, the next on the docket is The Expanse.
For the live discussions, we're going to be talking about The Expanse. We've got 3 episodes already, so we're going to try to plan that out for next week. And we also have...
Don't tell me anything. I didn't watch the other 2 episodes
No,
yet.
we also have tomorrow. Tomorrow's episode of the podcast is actually going to be a different show, so it's going to be video game centric. So come back and give that a watch tomorrow. For any fans of BioWare video games, it might be something right up your alley.
Definitely. But apart from that, thanks for joining us and have a great evening.
Cue the music.